My father, I suppose the last 70 years, has given the most remarkable, devoted service.
Have you ever wondered why Prince Philip, the man who stood loyally beside Queen Elizabeth II for more than 7 decades, suddenly chose to live apart from her in his twilight years? Was it a sign of underlying tensions in the royal household, or a practical decision to seek a quieter life away from the unrelenting demands of Buckingham Palace? Today, we'll dive into the full story behind Prince Philip's surprising move, uncovering personal accounts, lesser-known details, and insights from King Charles III, Prince Andrew, and Princess Anne, who each shed light on a marriage that was far more complex than most people realize. From regal traditions and whispered rumors to quiet country retreats and the demands of a relentless public eye, this script offers an in-depth look at a royal partnership that somehow endured for over 70 years, but concluded with an unexpected living arrangement. Let's begin by recalling the enduring image of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. For decades, they epitomized stability in a world shaped by global changes. Their wedding in November 1947 at Westminster Abbey served as a beacon of hope for a post-war Britain longing for optimism. Millions watched the spectacle, broadcast for the first time on television, and admired the young princess who would one day inherit the throne and the charming naval officer who had renounced his Greek and Danish royal titles to be by her side. Though both were of royal blood, each came from a distinct background. Elizabeth was raised in the direct line of succession, while Philip, exiled from Greece as a child, had grown accustomed to forging his own path. Their courtship began in earnest during Elizabeth's teenage years. At age 13, she visited the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, where Philip caught her attention with his playful athleticism, famously jumping over tennis nets. Afterward, they exchanged letters, sustaining a bond even as World War II overshadowed Europe and personal obligations threatened to keep them apart. By 1946, Philip proposed, and after Elizabeth turned 21, the engagement was officially announced. Their wedding then became an iconic moment. It wasn't just a marriage, but also a spirited symbol of a new era for the monarchy and the nation. Little did they know that just a few years later, in 1952, King George VI would pass away unexpectedly, thrusting Elizabeth onto the throne at the age of 25. Suddenly, Philip's life changed course. He shifted from a promising naval career where he thrived on discipline and duty to becoming the royal consort, a role that didn't carry a clear definition. He accompanied Elizabeth on overseas tours, presided over various ceremonies, and frequently found himself walking one step behind the new queen. While he embraced his responsibilities, Philip's outspoken demeanor occasionally clashed with the court's traditional expectations and the strict protocols embedded in palace life. He was, by nature, forthright. The monarchy, on the other hand, was steeped in centuries of measured decorum. To the public, however, Philip and Elizabeth remained a unified front. They welcomed 4 children, Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward. Each child had a different perspective on their parents' marriage, shaped by their experiences growing up in the extraordinary environment of royal life. Charles later described his father as firm and occasionally intimidating, reflecting Philip's disciplined approach. The Queen, meanwhile, was a steadying presence who dedicated herself fully to the responsibilities of the crown. Princess Anne admired Philip's practicality and directness, traits she emulated in her own way. Prince Andrew staunchly defended his father against any rumors that cropped up, most notably the persistent speculation in the 1950s about a rumored affair with a Russian ballerina. Although never substantiated, the story circulated widely, hinting that the royal couple had encountered private strains. Throughout it all, Elizabeth and Philip refused to address gossip publicly, opting for the monarchy's traditional silence. Over time, the Queen and Philip traversed an evolving social landscape, the decline of empire, cultural revolutions of the 1960s, and a growing media interest in royal affairs. Despite modern pressures, they adhered to their established roles. She wore the crown, prioritizing duty above all else, while he learned to adapt to the ambiguous position of consort. His naval background had taught him self-reliance and the importance of having a clear mission. Now, he had to carve out purpose in a life dictated by tradition and overshadowed by the monarch's role. Philip immersed himself in charitable work, championing causes related to science, technology, conservation, and most famously, founding the Duke of Edinburgh's award to promote youth development. Still, Philip's restlessness was no secret within the palace. Insiders reported that he often bristled at palace etiquette, expressing frustration at what he saw as archaic customs. He preferred to do things swiftly and directly, speaking his mind rather than delicately sidestepping controversies. The Queen, though aware of her husband's discomfort, remained bound by the monarchy's centuries-old routines. Through disagreements, children's milestones, royal tours, and shifts in public attitude, they presented themselves as a cohesive team. Over the years, they became a symbol of resilience and continuity for the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms. Everything changed in 2017 when, at age 96, Prince Philip announced his retirement from most public engagements. Many royal observers assumed he would simply enjoy a quiet life with the Queen at either Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. Instead, in a surprising twist, Philip chose to move to Wood Farm, a relatively modest cottage on the Sandringham estate. This move instantly ignited speculation among the media and the public. Why would a couple who had been married for 70 years decide to reside in different locations? The rumor mill went into overdrive. Some claimed it was evidence of serious marital rifts dating back decades. Others insisted it was a reflection of Elizabeth's and Philip's fundamentally different personalities, or perhaps a sign of advanced age and personal health preferences. King Charles, Princess Anne, and Prince Andrew, however, offered consistent explanations. Philip sought a measure of peace and independence that was nearly impossible to find in the heart of London's royal residences. Buckingham Palace, the official epicenter of the monarchy, is a perpetual whirl of official staff, grand receptions, and ceremonial obligations. Philip, who had served tirelessly for decades, yearned for fewer constraints and more personal time. He wanted to paint, read in solitude, and spend moments in the countryside without being trailed by large security details. Anne noted that her father despised idleness, but he also disliked endless protocol. Wood Farm provided him with a simple life more akin to what he'd known in his naval days, free from constant pomp and circumstance. Some commentators pointed to the significance of security concerns. At Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, the Queen's security was especially tight, sometimes making even a casual walk feel like a regimented affair for Philip. Over at Wood Farm, he could move about with relative freedom, walk the estate on his own, chat informally with staff, and indulge in low-key hobbies. The arrangement was, by most accounts, something the Queen fully supported. She recognized Philip's desire to steer clear of formalities after decades of dedicated service. Additionally, her advanced age and her unyielding dedication to the crown meant she had to remain closer to the seat of power. They found a balance that preserved her ability to perform official duties while granting him the personal space he craved. Inevitably, rumors persisted that their marriage had frayed over the decades. Skeptics harkened back to the old gossip about Philip's alleged affair, or pointed out that the two occasionally seemed at odds in public. Yet, family statements underscored that the separate residences did not reflect a breakdown of affection. Instead, it was the product of carefully weighing each other's needs in a monarchy that is both rigid and immensely demanding. Charles mentioned that his parents reached this decision through mutual consent and saw no scandal in it. Andrew reiterated that, as far as he was aware, his father's move to Wood Farm didn't emerge from resentment or conflict, but from practical desires. Then came 2020, and with it, the COVID-19 pandemic. Suddenly, for safety reasons, the Queen and Prince Philip found themselves reunited at Windsor Castle, spending lockdown under the same roof for an extended period. For a couple accustomed to separate routines and living arrangements, this could have revealed deeper tensions, if indeed any existed. Instead, their children and palace aides described a deepened sense of companionship. Without a parade of official guests and events, the two reportedly shared quiet breakfasts, spent afternoons reading, and reminisced about their early days together. The pandemic forced them into a simplified lifestyle, more akin to the Maltese years early in their marriage, when they briefly enjoyed relative normalcy while Philip was stationed abroad with the Royal Navy. Tragically, Prince Philip passed away on April 9, 2021, at the age of 99. The Queen lost a partner she had often called her strength and stay. His funeral, shaped by pandemic restrictions, featured a smaller, more intimate ceremony at St. George's Chapel, where images of a solitary queen mourning sparked global sympathy. Many could not help but recall how, in his final years, Philip had chosen to reside primarily away from the monarchy's bustling epicenter. But those who observed the pair most closely reiterated that the distance had, if anything, maintained their mutual respect. In his final months, they shared a period of daily interaction at Windsor, underscoring that their relationship had always been more than a public show. A central thread in this story is how the monarchy responded to an age-old question. How does one support a reigning queen without overshadowing her or losing oneself in the process? Philip's answer was to offer unwavering public loyalty while claiming space in private life. By the time he moved to Wood Farm, he had spent decades performing ceremonial roles, sacrificing many personal freedoms, adapting to life in Elizabeth's immense shadow, and doing so with characteristic directness. His children argue that if living separately was what he needed to savor his final chapter, then it was only fair he should have it. This living arrangement also echoes broader changes within modern royal families. We've seen Prince Harry and Meghan Markle step away from full-time royal duties, citing mental health and personal boundaries. Some compare Harry's break to the choice Philip made, albeit on a less dramatic scale. The difference is that Philip stayed loyal to the monarchy, but found a gentler, less scrutinized environment to pass his final years. Although critics see this as an unorthodox choice, supporters say it shows how the monarchy can allow personal accommodations for its members, particularly those who have served so diligently for so long. Moreover, the bond between Elizabeth and Philip, which began in their youth, always contained a nuanced dynamic of equality beneath the trappings of protocol. While Elizabeth was, by constitutional design, the head of state in private, many palace insiders believed Philip's voice carried significant influence. He was known for speaking bluntly, even at times to the discomfort of the Queen's advisors. Elizabeth often looked to Philip as a source of honest feedback in a world that might otherwise indulge in flattery. Living separately did not end this unique interplay. It simply shifted its day-to-day expression. They reportedly spoke often, and when royal events required them both, Philip rose to the occasion, walking beside or one step behind the Queen as he had throughout their life together. In the wake of Philip's death, tributes poured in regarding his humor, dedication, and modernizing influence. He had encouraged new ideas within the palace, from championing environmental conservation to adapting to television broadcasts and media. Charles pointed out that his father had been an early advocate for forward thinking, from supporting tech innovations to advising the younger royals to broaden their horizons. That progressive mindset might also explain how Philip negotiated for his own autonomy in his later years. Rather than retire in the shadow of Buckingham Palace, he sought a simpler environment where staff, ceremony, and media attention were dialed back. Princess Anne, in her reflective comments, insisted that her father's retreat to Wood Farm was not about escaping the Queen so much as escaping the trappings of public life. She recounted that he loved practical tasks, disliked wasting time, and valued his personal projects. Wood Farm's scale matched his preference for fewer formalities. He would chat with the limited staff as if they were longtime neighbors, something that would have been unthinkable on the grand stage of Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, the Queen remained the unshakable figurehead of the monarchy, continuing to hold audiences, issue statements, and represent the Commonwealth. The arrangement might sound peculiar in the context of traditional marriages, but for a couple as intertwined with duty as they were, it was an avenue to sustain both personal contentment and institutional demands. Even after Philip's passing, debates occasionally resurface around how this arrangement impacted the Queen. Some believe she harbored sadness at living apart from her husband in those final years. Others believe she fully endorsed his choices, finding solace in his happiness while she honored her oath to serve. Yet the family's public statements firmly support the latter, that both Elizabeth and Philip recognized the necessity of forging individual paths in old age without compromising their closeness as lifelong partners. It's also compelling to note that in 2020 and early 2021, as pandemic lockdowns forced them together, they reportedly fell into an easy routine. Family members glimpsed an almost youthful camaraderie, recalling the days in Malta, decades prior, when, for a short stretch, they led a relatively private existence out of the London spotlight. Whatever challenges they'd faced over the years seemed to dissolve in that quieter, more intimate setting. If anything, the monarchy's focus on public duty had sometimes limited the time they spent together, making their lockdown reunification feel poignant and rare. When the Queen sat alone in St. George's Chapel during Philip's funeral, the world was reminded of a love story that started with tennis nets in Dartmouth and ended 73 years later with a final act of mourning. Those who might have doubted their bond only had to see the Queen's solitary figure, the stoic composure that concealed decades of shared memories, both joyful and burdensome. Separate residences notwithstanding, they had navigated an unprecedented era, she as the longest reigning monarch, he as a consort who gradually shaped his own role, and found a partnership that blended tradition with their personal temperaments. At the heart of this story lies the question: how do two strong personalities remain united under the weight of monarchy? Their solution was unorthodox. Prince Philip eventually retired to a countryside cottage while the Queen continued fulfilling her constitutional role. And surprisingly, or perhaps not, it worked for them. Their children, who saw them in unguarded moments, attest that the emotional bond never wavered. Their public stance was always devoted. Their private relationship rarely shared, except through small anecdotes. We're left with a nuanced picture, a couple who understood that a marriage can evolve even within the confines of royalty, that giving each other room to breathe might indeed strengthen love. So, does Prince Philip's decision to live apart in his last years alter our perception of this iconic royal marriage? Or does it highlight a couple modern enough to make bold choices while preserving their partnership? Were the rumors of affairs and disagreements ever more than fleeting drama in a long life of service? Or did they leave scars that fueled Philip's desire for independence? Ultimately, only those closest to them truly know the answers. Yet, the story we do have, the statements from Charles, Anne, and Andrew, the glimpses of a pandemic reunion, and the testimonies of staff, points to a practical arrangement rooted in respect and affection. What do you think? Does Prince Philip's time at Wood Farm suggest hidden marital rifts or a healthy acceptance of each other's separate needs? Have the perspectives of their children given you new insights into the depth of the Queen and Philip's relationship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into royal history interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel for more behind-the-scenes stories, and share your opinions on the monarchy's enduring mysteries. Thank you for watching, and until next time,